The Legend of Korra has been a game that fans of the series have been waiting for a long time. So there's been a lot of hype about this, and it was developed by Platinum Games, who have created games like Bayonetta, which a lot of people love. So that inspired quite a bit of hope in the fans, which is understandable. And the premise of the game is that an evil guy has stripped Korra of her powers, and over the course of the game, you must regain them, and it sort of works on a level by level basis. Once you've earned the power back, you can level up each element separately the more you use it. Which has been, it's quite a good system, but it is a little bit limited. And I'll explain more on that later. There's not a lot of backstory to the game once you start it. Unless you're a fan of the series, you might be a bit lost. And the story does take a backseat in the game. It's not really in the forefront. There's quite a few cutscenes that explain little bits and pieces, and there's some action in there. Most of them are under 30 seconds though. So not very long, and they're typically just for a transition between a new level or a new part of the level. Or occasionally when a boss appears. And yeah, that's their typical use. You won't be getting minutes and minutes of story ploughed through in cutscenes, sadly. The gameplay focuses mainly on stringing together combos full of light and heavy moves. So on PlayStation, which I'm playing on PS4, square is for your light moves and triangle is for your heavy moves. And you can string together various combos of them, which you can find when you go into the options. You've also got dodging, and you've got countering. Dodging you can pretty much use to get away from most things, and you can zip about doing that. Or on PS4 with L2 you can block, which you can just hold down and it will typically take most of the damage away from attacks, although some are unblockable, especially lightning attacks. But if you time it right, typically an enemy will flash red, and then you can tap it at the right time. Think, again, Bayonetta or Arkham Asylum, those type of games, and you can do a counter. And that usually requires you to do something else. It might be press a button or flick both joysticks up, and then you will counter their move, do some quite hefty damage. And there's also a variety of temple run sequences throughout the game, which are sort of thrown in. Typically when you call your, I don't know to call it pet or buddy, but Naga, which is like a really awesome polar bear type creature. So they're quite fun, but it's a bit jarring when you first see it, because it sort of threw me off. I wasn't expecting it. But it's a little bit of fun, something different. Going back to combat, it does have a really decent flow to it. I quite enjoyed it, especially once you get into it and you unlock the other elements. Most of the moves have a nice feel of impact, especially if you use earth. You can knock them up into the air, knock them away into the distance in some cases. But there are some aspects that are a little bit frustrating, like the counter system that I discussed a minute ago. It's very hit or miss. Occasionally I think I definitely have hit that on the right moment, but I still got hit for some reason. It just feels like occasionally the timing is off compared to what you actually see. The elements themselves that you use, you've got water, which is typically ranged and projectile, which is also the first one that you unlocked. Then you have earth, which is incredibly slow compared to the rest at least, but it is devastating. Once you hit them, you know that you've done some damage. You've also got fire, which is melee based and very fast, which is typically one that you could use in most situations if you want to get it over with quickly. And then you have air, which is an all-rounder really, and has quite a lot of nice AoE, but it doesn't really excel in any department. Each chapter of the game is very linear. You won't be doing exploring, well, not much exploring. There are things like chests that you can open which give you some items, but typically they're just cosmetic stuff that just sit in your inventory and you don't use. As you play as well, you gather spirit energy, which you can use in the shop system. where you can buy items. There's one that revives you once you die. You've got ones that will heal you. You've got a variety of moves that you can unlock, but they are quite limited. I think there's only 7 or 8 that I saw. What else is there? There are items which can actually modify the way you play it a bit. So they'll give you double the spirit drops that you earn, but you only do half the damage. So most of them are quite gimmicky, and you won't miss much if you don't go in the shop at all. One playthrough typically lasts between 4 and 6 hours. I was done in about 4.5. So it's a decent experience, but don't go expecting like a 10-hour journey, because it's sadly just not going to happen. Once you beat story mode, you also get the Pro Bending League, which, if you're fans of the series, you'll sort of know what this is. But it plays out like an arena-based tug-of-war combat, in a way. And you've got to try to knock your opponents off the other end of the platform. It's a little bit of fun. I don't see people playing that for weeks and weeks, but it's nice that it's there once you complete the game. It's something extra for you to do. Overall, if you're expecting a revolutionary next-gen experience, you will be disappointed. But it does its job. It was there typically for the fans. So I think in that way, it's a very solid action platformer, and Korra fans will be really pleased with it. So overall, we give it a 7 out of 10. It's a solid game for the fans. Not much replay value, but it's got some decent combat and it's a fun experience for all. So if you're a fan, definitely pick it up. If you're not, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter so you can find out when more are posted. Most importantly, have a nice day.